I've got no time to spare. Good morning, how's everyone doing? Oh, come on. How are we doing, guys? That's what I'm talking about. A huge thank you to you all for coming to my session this morning. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I've got 4 days of content at least. There is no way I can fit it all. This is Windows Server 2019 Deep Dive, AKA they wouldn't let me call it Demo-palooza, okay? Let me give you the skinny on this. We have a ton of content. We got Windows Server 2019, we got Windows Admin Center, we've got hybrid, we've got hyper-converged, we've got security, we've got application innovation demos. We've got 7 demos. Okay, so we are going to keep this moving along at a pretty good clip here. First of all, going to talk very quickly about what we've been doing in the cloud and with Azure. You've seen it all week. I don't need to spend too much time on it. The important thing I want to mention to everyone is just how much we think about hybrid. Hybrid is actually, for us, it's built in. It's not bolted on. When I drive into work, when our team drives into work, we're thinking, how do we give you the best hybrid experience? How do we make sure that Azure is a click away? And by the way, if I'm not ready to go to the cloud today, if I need to stay on premises, that's cool, do that. Just know when you're ready to make that move, we got you covered. I'm going to ask a real simple question of all of you. I'm just looking for a show of hands. There's 3 options. I'm going to ask you, what is your cloud strategy? Is it number 1, all on-prem, number 2, all in the cloud, or 3, hybrid? So let's start with the first one. Are you all in the cloud? How many of you are all in the cloud? Nothing on-prem? A few hands. How many of you are all on-prem? A few more. How many of you have a hybrid strategy? And there goes every hand in the room. Guess what? The other guys are chasing our taillights. Why? Because we've known this. We've had these conversations with you for years, which is why it is so focused and ingrained in us. Azure pillar number 2 is hybrid. Well, guess what? That's also a core pillar of what we're doing in Windows Server, so I'm excited to talk to you about that today. So our 4 pillars in Windows Server 2019, hybrid, hyper-converged, security, and application. And we know that's important because those have come from you. Those have been driven directly from you. And I want to start off with the work that we've been doing in Admin Center. Admin Center has been just crazy off the charts like wildfire. A huge thank you to all of you. We have over 1.7 million servers under management in no time. And one of the things it is not only a portal to our features in Windows Server, for example, the storage migration service, and by the way, all new features for Server are here. Don't tell me you're looking in Explorer. Don't tell me you're looking in an MMC, something that was written in 2000. All the new features for Server are here. It's a free download, by the way. You understand that, right? There's no cost to it. It's just a tool. All you do is download this, and it's here, and it's running on your client to manage your servers. It's also our portal for hybrid, and you're going to see that throughout this session. First of all, again, a huge thank you to all of our customers, to all of you. Your feedback from user voice is what's helped driven the features that have gone into Admin Center. If you look at Admin Center today versus a year ago when we launched it at Ignite, the feature set is, oh my gosh, so much added, all based on your feedback. I also want to thank our partners. For example, Fujitsu. Fujitsu has announced the GA of their integration for their servers. So if you're a Fujitsu customer, this extension helps bridge your hardware and software together in one console. It helps you with troubleshooting and management. You want to get deep insight about your server hardware, like memory speeds, processors, fan speeds, temperatures, voltages, and get it in the same console as your server? Yes, please. Thank you, Fujitsu. This is awesome work. I also want to give shout out to our friends over at Data On. Data On released V1 with us last year. They've been working with us very closely, and guess what? They're already up to V2. And this V2 is sexy and hot. So for example, there's their server. If you mouse over any of those disks in the chassis, it highlights the one at the bottom. And so if you highlight server 1, it goes green, and it actually corresponds with it below. And if a disk is going bad, it turns red and shows you right there in Admin Center. And there's a ton more integration built in with their servers. I also want to give a shout out to the folks at Squared Up. So they actually have this best-in-class monitoring solution that plugs into System Center Operations Manager, because we know there's a lot of Opsman out there, that integrates with Azure Monitoring and integrates with Admin Center. So this brings in your historical performance data from Opsman, and you get live application topologies and dependencies into the context of the server through Admin Center. So you can see all of this plugging in together. Also in preview from Riverbed. So lots of people use WAN optimization products. Riverbed's very, very popular, and I'm thrilled that we've been working very closely with our friends over at Riverbed to deliver this Steel Fusion Edge plugin for Admin Center. You get the full featured management experience of Steel Fusion Edge from Admin Center. So this includes all the features they provided through the Steel Fusion Edge management tool, including configuration, monitoring, and ongoing management of their edge device. Again, all of this in one console. So none of this, oh my gosh, I got to switch contexts and all that. And if I do need another window, just create a new tab because it's all running in a browser. HPE. I've had so many people asking me about this. So I really appreciate the guys at HPE letting me show this to you, because this is currently in development. This isn't in preview. This is kind of a proof of concept they said I could show you, because so many people are asking me, Jeff, what's HPE doing with their Admin Center integration? Because we really, really need that for our ProLiant servers. We really, really want this. And so I said, guys, please let me show you. Please let me give them a sneak peek. So they said, OK, you can do this. So this extension provides an overview of the HPE ProLiant server status and provides the ILO IP of the server. So you can click on this for out-of-band management and the integrated HPE server management, including health, reliability management, and performance. So again, you're seeing the ecosystem just growing and growing and growing, and there's dozens more. You're probably seeing them as you're walking through Ignite. And then we have Lenovo. I'm just going to put a little tick right here. I'll be back to Lenovo in a few minutes, because there's something pretty awesome going on here. Let's move along. Admin Center. The point I want to make is Admin Center complements your existing management solution. I get a lot of people going, well, does this mean I don't need System Center anymore? Oh, no. This is very different. First of all, Admin Center can run anywhere. I can run it in Azure. I can run it on-prem. I can run it in physical. I can run it against virtual machines. It runs anywhere. However, let's be clear. If I need to deploy racks and racks of servers from bare metal, if I need to do application monitoring of racks and racks and racks and racks, and it's on-prem, ooh, that's System Center, folks, please. That's not where Admin Center plays. Okay? But if I'm deploying 2 nodes, 4 nodes, 8 nodes, hyper-converged infrastructure, I need to manage my OS, I need to manage configuration. By the way, this all works in complement to System Center. You can have both of these working in tandem. So understand that it fits all into all of these things together. These are all complementary solutions. So the first thing I want to focus on as we walk through the pillars is hybrid. So yesterday, if you watched the keynotes, we had a lot of hybrid demos. I can't tell you how long I've been waiting to tell you and show you some of this stuff. We had the Azure Network Adapter. First time we demoed this publicly. So excited. You literally go to an operating system and say, hey, you know what? I've got an edge server. It's literally a server in a school, or it's a server in a small store, or it's a server in an isolated location, and I need to get access to Azure, but I need to do it in a secure way. Do I got to go buy a hardware appliance or something? Oh, man, is this really hard? No. Click on Add Azure Network Adapter, and we create a secure VPN into Azure. They're done. All in software. No hardware. No, just they're done. Azure Network Adapter. Then we showed you Azure Site Recovery, which has just gotten easier and easier over time. It's literally click on a VM, select VM Protect, and boom, you're replicating in one-click business continuity. This is what integrated hybrid means. Built in, not bolted on. Next, we showed Azure Backup. Now, one of the things we did was we didn't have a lot of time to show you too much, so we're going to get right into it right now with Azure Backup. So here is an Azure Backup, and I wanted to walk you through the configuration because we showed you kind of the finished stages, so I want to show you a little behind the scenes. So the first thing you do is you log into your Azure portal, and if you haven't signed up, you can click on here to sign up to get your account. I, of course, already have one, so I'm going to click and log in, and I'm going to go ahead and authenticate into Azure. And now it's loading my subscriptions. So this is my subscriptions, my storage accounts, all of that stuff. And now I've logged in, so it's got my information. Now I set up my Azure Backup. What region do I want to back up to? What is the recovery services vault I want to configure? Pretty obvious stuff. Next, I want to select my backup items and schedule. So here you can figure out, well, what is it that I want to back up? Just the system state? Probably not. I probably want to back up the C:\volume as well. And if I had more volumes, D, E, and F, they would all appear here. You'll notice that when I do that, it gives me the total backup size, so I know, oh, there's 40 gigs that I need to back up. So all the information I need to know is there. Now we go down here and we select the files and folder schedule. How often do I want to back up? Weekly? And look at this, retention is right there. Retain for 4 weeks, retain for 12 months. Maybe you have a legal obligation to keep data around forever. Guess what? You want to do weekly, you want to do dailies. We got the common configs right there. So I'm going to go ahead and select daily, retain 30 days, and I can also configure the system state and schedule. But we did more than this, because we also want to help protect you against the bad guys. What's been one of the popular attacks in the last year? Ransomware attacks. What are the bad guys doing? They're going into repositories, they're encrypting it with the encryption keys, and they're saying, we have your data. If you want it, you gotta write us a big check to give you the key back. Well, what you really want to do is, well, I don't really want to pay them back. First of all, I want to make sure I have defense in depth and this never happened in the first place. But if this did happen, what you really want to do is encrypt the backup. Because guess what? This means the bad guys can't get to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in my encryption passphrase. This encrypts my backups. So now when I go to actually recover the data, guess what? They can't even access them, because the first thing it's going to say is Azure Backup's going to say, sorry, type in your encryption passphrase before you can even get to it. So he stopped the ransomware guys cold in their tracks just by using Azure Backup to help protect it. And so you can see here in Azure Backup now, I can see my jobs, my recovery points, I can see my backup items, I see everything that I need to know about the backups that are happening for this server. And of course, if I want to check this out into Azure, I've got deep links that take me into Azure. So now if we review, again, we talked about the Azure Network Adapter yesterday. We talked about Azure Site Recovery. I just showed you Azure Backup. That's really cool. That's a lot we demonstrated. Spoiler alert, we didn't show them all. So with that, I'd like to invite Haley Rowland up on stage to talk about some additional hybrid management. Let's welcome Haley, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Haley.
Awesome. So Jeff has done a really great job of explaining to you how Windows Admin Center is really perfect for that single cluster or single server configuration and maintenance. So using the Updates tool in Windows Admin Center today, I can easily install updates across my servers one at a time. But let's say I have a lot of different servers, and I really want a centralized way to deploy all those updates across my servers, and also a way to see the centralized status of all of those servers. Well, Azure Update Management is a solution from Azure Monitor that does just that. Gives me that centralized, easy management experience. And what the integration with Windows Admin Center does is it allows you to onboard your your Windows Admin Center managed servers to Azure Update Management, giving you that easy, centralized management experience. So if we take a step back and look at what it looked like to do this before Windows Admin Center, you had a lot of great documentation. But we on the Windows Admin Center team thought we could make this a little bit easier. So let's step into Windows Admin Center and see how this looks today. So from my Updates tool, I get this easy suggestion that tells me I can centrally manage updates on all of my servers using Azure Update Management. Sounds good to me, so I'll go ahead and click Set Up Now. Now I just have to provide my Azure subscription and the location of the resources that I want to deploy. So here I can either select to create new or use existing resources, depending on if I have an existing Log Analytics workspace or Azure Automation account in Azure. Okay, I'll go ahead and click Setup. And then this is really where the beauty of Windows Admin Center comes in. We've really streamlined and automated all of the manual steps that you had to do before that you saw in the documentation. And we're installing the agents. We're making sure that all the services are configured and provisioned in Azure for you and connecting them all up together. So once the update is, once the configuration is all completed, I'll see that the user interface updates here to tell me that this server is now being managed by Azure Update Management. So I can still install updates manually using the Updates tool in Windows Admin Center, but now I have this intelligent deep link that'll take me straight into the Azure portal, where I'll see the server that I just came from, so that was SME Server 8, and I'll see it alongside all the other servers that I've onboarded to this Azure Update Management solution. So here you see I get this centralized view. I see all of my servers are compliant, meaning I don't have any security or pending critical updates. And I can also use that schedule update deployment button that you see to go ahead and deploy updates across all of my servers. So that's really an overview of how Windows Admin Center with Azure can work in tandem to really support you wherever you are on your hybrid journey. Thanks, Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley. Awesome. Notice in the bottom right-hand corner, like I said, I don't have time to go into everything in depth, so I have sessions. If you look at that and go, oh my gosh, I want to know more about that, you can go to BRK2241, Windows Server Management Reimagined with Windows Admin Center. You're going to see little banners throughout my slides, so you know exactly where to go, because I'm sure I'm going to find lots of things that are interesting to you. So that was update management. So we've done network adapter, we've done site recovery, we've done Azure backup, we've done update management. Okay, we've pretty much covered all the hybrid stuff, right? Spoiler alert, we're not done. I told you I was bringing the stuff today. I'm bringing the goods. So in Windows Server 2016, what did we introduce? An extremely popular feature, storage replica. Customers love it. It's both synchronous and asynchronous replication in the box. So now we've given you that capability. Well, you can now use it to replicate between your sites. But a lot of customers go, you know what? I really would love to be able to, replicate this to Azure. Wouldn't it be great if you could use storage replica in Azure? Well, let's take a peek at that. So here I've got this new storage replica integration with Azure here in preview. The first thing we're going to do here is create a new partnership. So I can use an existing server, or I'm going to create a brand new virtual machine in Azure IaaS. You can see here's the server name, here's the replication group and my volumes. I'm loading my Azure information because this is the destination. This is going to be the target that I'm going to replicate up into Azure IaaS. So I can go ahead and choose my subscription. I can choose my resource group. Keep in mind, what you're literally doing is you're using your on-premises storage replica and you're replicating it up into Azure VM. And of course, we have deep linking that takes me right to the resource group in Azure. So I can see the subscription, I can see the resource group. If you say, hey, Jeff, I only want this in a specific location, this guy has to stay in the US, great, choose that for your location. Or if you're from abroad and you want to be in a specific location through one of our dozens of regions around the world, you can choose that. So you select your server name, you choose the size. Now, of course, you're going to give it the local username, admin name, and password. And if there's a domain you need to include because you're syncing your storage replica on premises, which is domain join, guess what? We can do that because, of course, you're using file sync and you're syncing your on-premises domain controllers, your Active Directory with Azure AD, of course. So you got your domain name, you got your domain user and password, and that's literally all we have to do. We basically are saying, okay, I need to set up the target. And so we're setting up the target, we're setting up the accounts, and we go ahead and click on Create. And so we create the virtual machine, we join the domain, and we configure the virtual machine. All right? So that's the whole process that we're going through with Storage Replica. And this takes a couple minutes. And rather than sit there and watch a progress bar today and do a little tap dance for you, because again, so much content, so many demos, a couple minutes later we come back, you can see that the replication is occurring at the very top there. You can see 46% is completed and it's replicating right on up to Azure. What did you see? Just a couple clicks, we have enabled all of this storage replication to Azure. So again, even more integration, and when again, you have the deep link that takes you right back here into Azure, and you can see there's all of your storage replication, there's all of your disks, there's everything you need right there in Admin Center, taking you and integrating you with Azure. What do you think, guys? How are we doing? Awesome. I'm still just getting warmed up. Let's get going. All right, so that was network adapter, that was site recovery, that was backup, that was update management, and there was storage replication with Azure. Okay, I could probably spend more time on here on hybrid, but I'm going to keep going. Let's get to our next pillar, hyper-converged infrastructure. Hyper-converged infrastructure is red hot. One of the reasons why, quite honestly, is because there's a lot of really old servers out there in the industry. How many of you have servers out there that still have spinning hard drives in them? Oh. You can almost hear the gasp in the room. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. If I had a magic wand that could just replace every spinning disk out there in the world, that would be a wonderful thing. But that would only actually be hitting part of the problem. It's more than that. It's security, it's a secure platform, it's TPM, it's UEFI, it's firmware, it's flash, it's faster PCI, it's more cores, it's more memory, it's all of these things. And so hyper-converged is about bringing all of these things together in a highly efficient package, driving up performance and driving down cost. And one of the things I mentioned earlier, I teased this, was Lenovo. Well, let me show you what Lenovo's been doing with their admin center integration with their hyper-converged solution. And guys, here comes some audio. Check this out. Hardware integration. Want to see all the firmware for all of your servers in a cluster in one spot? Consumption, system temperature, CPU power consumption, memory power consumption. Cluster management integration. And now the hyper-converged cluster manager. Baselines for compliance for the firmwares in the cluster. This is just some of the work that's happening right now, and I want to give a huge shout out to our friends at Lenovo. This stuff is in preview right now, and you're going to soon expect a lot more coming from Lenovo with hyper-converged solutions. With that, I also want to make sure that I keep rolling right along, because again, we got tons and tons more content. We got to get to something also in the hardware space, which is storage class memory. Now, storage class memory, I've been chatting with a lot of people, and it seems to be catching a lot of people by surprise. They think they've heard about this, they kind of think they've seen it, they're not sure that they have, but they're not sure how it's different from other types of memory. So really quickly, let me explain how it's different. First, we had flash that was attached via USB. And guess what? The interface was too slow. So we moved that flash to SATA and SAS because those had faster interfaces. We then moved it to PCI, but PCI got too slow. So we actually created a whole new connection called NVMe, Non-Volatile Memory Express. And we thought, great, that'll be faster. Well, every time we're doing this, what are we doing? We are taking the flash storage and we're moving it closer and closer and closer to the processor. Why are we doing this? To drive up performance and reduce latency. Okay, that's why we keep getting it closer, and we keep getting those roadblocks out of the way, those interfaces for legacy interfaces for SAS and SATA and USB. So NVMe, we thought, boy, that's pretty good. Well, what we're doing now is storage class memory says, no, that's not good enough. We're going to get even closer. We're going to take memory and we're going to put it on a DIMM socket, and we're going to put storage sit right next to the processor. So storage class memory fits in a DIMM socket. Okay, and with this in a DIMM socket, it allows me to be sitting right there. The storage class memory can be configured to look like high-speed storage. It can be configured to look like memory. It can be configured to look like a combination of both. So you can actually treat it as memory and storage. Well, this means that for our hyper-converged infrastructure like Storage Spaces Direct, we can use this as an insanely fast, high-speed cache, because literally this is sitting right next to the processor. We got all those other things out of the way. I could spend a lot of time talking about it, but rather than do that, I'd like to invite Cosmos Darwin on stage to give you a demo of what we're doing with Server 2019 in storage class memory. Cosmos?
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. Organizations around the world are looking to hyper-converged infrastructure for their next wave of data center modernization. And there's no better way to go from Hyper-V to hyper-converged infrastructure than with Windows Server 2019, which includes Hyper-V, Storage Spaces Direct, and software-defined networking, everything you need in one familiar product and license. But more than the affordable price or the familiar management tools, what customers tell us they really love most is the performance. 2 years ago, on this stage, we demoed a single Storage Spaces Direct cluster providing Hyper-V virtual machines with nearly 6.7 million IOPS, or storage operations per second. But that was with Windows Server 2016 and hardware that's now 2 years old. So this year at Ignite, it's time to see if we can beat that record. The demo you're about to see is the result of a deep engineering collaboration between Microsoft and our friends at Intel. And it features the very latest in storage innovation, Intel Optane DC persistent memory. Now, you can be forgiven if you're not familiar with Optane. It's pretty new stuff. An Optane module, like this one, goes into a DDR4 memory slot, but the storage it provides, as Jeff said, is persistent, meaning you can power down, power back up again, and everything that you wrote is still there. And unlike regular RAM, Optane comes in sizes up to 512 gigabytes. And it's fully natively supported in Windows Server 2019, including with Storage Spaces Direct. The performance you can get from one of these modules is pretty impressive, but what's more fun is an entire rack of them. It's actually a reference configuration that Microsoft and Intel have been working on together. 12 server nodes, each running Windows Server 2019, and packed with future Intel Xeon Scalable processors, persistent memory, and NVMe. Let's take a look. We'll start in Windows Admin Center, which includes a purpose-built dashboard especially for hyper-converged infrastructure. Here, we see an overview of our cluster. We can see we have our 12 server nodes, our 72 drives, and over 300 Hyper-V virtual machines. Now, they're turned off right now, but we'll get back to that in just a minute. To round out the tour, we can see we have 14 data volumes, which are providing us with nearly 100 terabytes of usable storage. And as you may have seen from the front photo, this environment's not even fully packed. We actually have additional PCI slots and drive bays available for expansion. Here are those 12 servers from Intel, and we can also take a look at the drives. And Windows Admin Center lets us group them by type, so we can see that we have 24 persistent memory devices that were going to be used for cache. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice these show us 768 gigabytes. Now, how's that possible? Well, if we click in, what we see is that Windows is actually striping these at the memory controller level. This is some, like I said, pretty new stuff. We can also see back on the drives list our 48 NVMe drives, which are being used for capacity. And if you think of flash as small, think again, because these NVMe SSDs are 8 terabytes each. Back on the dashboard, I'd like to introduce you to two charts. The first shows us IOPS, or storage requests, across the entire cluster. And the second shows us I/O latency, how long those requests are taking on average, as measured at the file system level in Windows. So this is not device latency. OK, are you guys ready to see what this system can do? Before we get there, one more thing. I am going to need an extra digit. I don't want to give anything away, but all right. Now, we saw that we have these 300 Hyper-V virtual machines that are turned off. When we turn them on, each one is going to start running an open source Microsoft tool called disk speed to generate storage load. So, shall we start turning them on? Let's start with just the virtual machines on node 1. We'll bring those online, and what you'll see happen back in Windows Admin Center, and we can time-lapse forward here, is that you'll see the IOPS shoot through the tens and hundreds of thousands to 1 million 4K random IOPS serving just the virtual machines on node 1. This system isn't even breaking a sweat. Let's turn on some more virtual machines. Let's turn on the VMs on node 2. Now, you'll see a pattern start to form here. These virtual machines are going to request another million IOPS, and they're going to get it, 2 million IOPS from this cluster. All right, I don't want to drag this out. Should we turn on all of the rest of the virtual machines? Let's turn them on from nodes 3 through 12 in kind of a sweep. Now, what we'll see here, as these virtual machines request more and more and more storage I/O, this hyper-converged cluster is able to satisfy it through 3, 4, 5 million IOPS to our previous record of 6 million IOPS, and continuing onward and upward through 7 million, 8 million, 9 million. Here's a big milestone, 10 million IOPS, 11, 12, 13 million IOPS from a single hyper-converged cluster. Folks, this is our new record, and we believe the industry record for any hyper-converged platform. The pace of innovation here is really exciting. In just 2 years, we can do twice as many IOPS, and last time it took us 16 servers. This time we only needed 12. You've seen it here. Thank you for counting IOPS in millions with me. Swing by the expo later in the storage area. We have stickers for count IOPS in millions. And thank you very much. Back to you, Jeff.
Awesome, Cosmos. Thank you, Cosmos. Cosmos, don't go anywhere. I may have you come back for something else. So a spoiler. So 13 million IOPS. By the way, I just want to highlight something. The number that was set before, 2 years ago, 6.7 million IOPS out of 16 nodes, we hadn't seen anything hit that number. Still haven't seen anything hit that number. We just doubled it with fewer servers. So I'm really excited about what's happening in storage class memory. Next, I want to talk about some work that we're doing in Core Server. This is a brand new feature in Windows Server 2019 System Insights. Again, limited time, so I'm going to briefly give you an overview. What we want to do is we want to take advantage of the capabilities that we're already using in the server. Your eventing, your performance counters, your ETW events. What if we could actually use that historical data, that data that's already running locally on your server to help give you some predictive analytics? So we actually built System Insights into 2019, and it runs for its own instance. It's what we call Node Local. And we built in a few capabilities richly built right into it. Volume consumption forecasting, total storage forecasting, CPU, and networking. So let me give you a quick example of what we mean by volume consumption. So here I've got a server with a number of volumes on it. And as I look at it over time, you can see the straight line is where I am right now. To the right of the line is where I'm forecasted to go. A's looking fine, C's looking fine, but B is not looking so fine. If you think about your job, very often our job is firefight mode. Oh no, we just ran out of server storage and we're too late. Oh my gosh, now what do? We have to deal with the firefighting mode. Wouldn't it be great if we could actually get the information and say, wait a minute, we see there's something coming, there's an event coming on, we see that in terms of storage, you could be running out soon. Let's give you that so you can be proactive about that. So this is all built in System Insights, and again, all built into Admin Center. Now, if I click into it further, and let's take a closer look at this volume, you'll notice at the bottom, we actually give you suggested actions. We don't just say, hey, here's a problem, and say, good luck with that. We say, no, we give you a couple of things you can do. Number one, if you have the ability, you can extend the volume. Okay, if the volume resides on a larger storage pool, and say, oh, we can extend the volume. So we give you the ability to do that. Then you say, well, maybe I want to actually use Azure File Sync. What if I could just tier some of these things up to Azure and create more space locally? Another option is to run disk cleanup. Now, disk cleanup can vary depending on how much old temp data is around. It may help you, at least in the short term, but we're giving you a number of different options. And so System Insights is about giving you the ability to take this information and run these predictive analytics models on this. Again, don't have a lot of time. If you're interested in more, the PM that owns this, Garrett, is here. He's got a session, Windows Server 2019 System Insights Simplified ML for the Intelligent Edge. That's BRK2241. All right? Moving along, storage migration. Holy cow. I think we have really hit a nerve here. So let me talk about this. One thing that customers have told us is we need to migrate data, and it's really, really hard. We talk to customers and say, Jeff, I hate to admit this to your face, but yeah, I still got some Server 2003 file servers around. Why? Why do you still have those around? Because we have some app that we wrote, 5 or 10 years ago, and it's writing data to that file server. And if we change, we don't even know how it's finding that file server. Is it looking for a name? Is it looking for an IP address? We're afraid if we just do anything to change it, we could have unexpected consequences and break apps. And so customers told us, we really want to migrate the data, but it's really hard. All data must transfer. All shares and configuration and file system security must transfer. It's not just a file copy. What about all the ACLs on the folders, all the metadata? What about the special information? What about encrypted file systems? All of those things. What about files that are in use? What if me, as the operator who's doing the copy, actually doesn't have permission to do all of the file copies? All data attributes, alternate data streams, encryption, compression, that's all got to transfer. All the network addresses. So again, if this thing has an IP address that ends in 122, and I have an app that's saving to this, and then I create a new server that has a different IP address, and this app's trying to save it, it can't find it anymore, this app's broken. Now people are upset with you, and again, we're back in firefighting mode. So what you really need is you need something that can migrate all of that, not only the data, but all of the metadata, all of the naming, all of the identification of that server. What you really need is a storage migration service, which allows you to migrate unstructured data from anywhere into Azure or modern Windows servers. It's fast, consistent, and scalable, and provides an elegant graphical workflow. And by the way, it actually goes all the way back and will migrate even 2003. We did this specifically to help you, for those folks that still have some 2003 file servers out there, this will help you get off of those. Also, as 2008 and 2008 go end of support, and you want to get off those old crufty servers, wouldn't you like to put it on one of these hyper-converged babies here, and get some massive performance boost here? Okay, so storage migration service allows me to migrate all of those, and this is simply built into Windows Server 2019. So, storage migration service operates in 3 phases. There's an inventory phase where it looks at the old server and says, tell me all your information. What are your shares? What's your IP address? How many NICs do you have? How many volumes do you have? Get me everything I need to know about that server. The second phase is actually the transfer. This is the copy phase. So it actually copies it to your new destination. And the third phase is the killer one, called cutover. In the cutover phase, essentially we say, okay, we're taking the old one and putting you in a read-only mode and hiding you from everybody else on the network. Admins can see you, but nobody else can. And what we're doing is this new server, we're making it look exactly like the old server. Same server name, same server IP address, same everything, same shares, same ACL. So all of your apps that are looking for a file server name or an IP address, it just gets redirected to the new server, and it all just works. So rather than talk about it, let me show you. This is the new storage migration service and this gorgeous new admin center console. All right, let's go ahead and start a new job. And to keep things interesting, I am not going to just migrate one server. I'm going to migrate 2 servers simultaneously. So we're going to go ahead and give this a job name, a demo. And I'm going in here into the storage migration service. Phase 1, inventory. So I type in my username and password. Got all my creds here. And so this is so that I can, for the devices I need to migrate. And if I want to include administrative shares, I can. I click on Next, and now I'm going to add and scan devices. So I'm going to bring in 2 file servers. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a device. And this one is FSO1. That's my one old file server. And I'm going to add a second device, FSO2. So these are my old servers. One of them is actually running 2008 R2, the other one is running 2012 R2. Now I'm gonna start a scan on this. So it's literally inventorying and scanning the entire, both of these servers. It's getting all of their information. Tell me about all of your shares, all your volumes, all your networks, all your IP addresses, all your domain information, everything that identifies you as a file server, I need all of that information. And there it is. And it tells me, yep, everything succeeded, here's all of the size, here are all the files, and if you want to get the details, here's the actual shares on FS01. You can see all of the shares, you can see their sizes, you can see their files, you can see everything succeeded. If I want to dig deeper, I can click on the share details, and yep, it gives me additional information about this share. Am I using encryption? Am I using shadow copies? Everything I need to know. So in addition, I'm going to go on over to FS02. Again, this is the second server that I'm migrating. So I go on over here. Again, I can get configuration information, its name, its domain name. Here's the network adapter. It's got one network adapter. Here's all the volumes. You can see I've got multiple volumes. And now I'm going to go through the next process. So inventory's done. We're going to transfer this. Let's copy all of this stuff to the destinations. So I have two origins, and now I'm going to set up two targets. So FS01 and FS02 are my old servers, and now I'm adding a new server, a destination for FS01, and that's going to be SMS 2019-02. So that's my first new server. And then I'm going to, and you can see we do all of the auto mapping for you. All of the volumes are auto mapped. We make sure all of the storage is there. You can see the sources for all of the shares are below. If you decide, you know what, I don't really need this first one. That's an old source. I could, you know, I could say I don't need to transfer it, but I'm going to do it anyways because I'm nervous that way. And I'm going to go ahead and click next. And now I'm going to add the second server. So this is the first one. So now let's add the destination device for the second server, FS02. So I'm going to type in the destination device here. This is a different server, SMS 2019-03, and I'm going to scan it. Again, we're going to go through the same process. We're going to auto map all your volumes. And now we're going to go through the process of, all right, it's time to transfer data. If you want, you can validate, you can do checksumming if you want to be really, really, really careful that you got every little bit of data. You can add checksumming. We've got retry logic in here. Click on next. And of course, you're thinking, how do I know that this is really going to work, Jeff? Well, click on the validate button and we'll tell you. The validate button will actually bring up a list and will show you, yep, we actually validated that, yep, we've got all of the credentials, we've got all of the volumes, we have the right file systems, we have enough data, we have enough storage. We're good, we're golden. We've checked all the stuff, we're ready to go. We are literally walking you through the process. So validate's passed, it's time to transfer. We are now copying from your two old servers, FS01, to your two new servers. And all of it has been click, 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 click. Now let's go back to this super cool new storage migration service panel, brand new. You can see the running jobs. So you can see right there in the graph, I've got 106 megabits per second right now as I'm transferring from FS02. FS01 is already done, and I'm copying from my old servers to my new servers. So I'm now going through the transfer process, and I'm just about done. 94% done on FS02, 99% done, and we are done. So now we can look at this and we can actually see, well, I'm looking at FS02. Now when your boss comes to you and say, you know what, somebody in marketing claims you didn't get all their files, you're about to be fired. You say, no problem. Let's bring up the transfer detail and I'll open up a CSV file in Excel that has every single file with every single attribute, with every single path, with everything you need to know so that you can hand this to your boss and say, no, I copied it. They're all right here. This is all built right in. So you can see name, computer, job, path, type, size, attributes, creation dates, access dates, owners, ACLs, errors, checksums, all of this in a CSV file. You just open this up in Excel and show your boss, no, I actually got it, and it's right here. So now we got through the final phase, which is the cutover phase. In the cutover phase, we're basically saying, okay, we want those new servers now to look just like the old servers, okay? So I want the IP addresses to be the same. I'm going to rename the new servers so they have the names of the old servers. The old servers were, again, FS01 and FS02. So I need to make sure now that the new ones get the old names. The old servers now are going to be basically hidden away from anybody but an admin. They're still on the network. We haven't done anything. And by the way, this is a read-only operation. So this is not affecting any of the data on the file server. This is completely safe because this is read-only the entire time. And so now we're going through the cutover process. And again, we're going to validate this yet again. We give you validation after every stage. Let's make sure, hey, everything looking good here. Yeah, we're going to go through the validation phase. We got some little spinning wheels here as we go through validation. We can see the first one is passed, and the second one is right behind it. Right there. If I click on validation, you can see, yep, we have everything we need to do. We have all the accounts. We have all the token filter policy. We have everything to do. It's safe to do this cutover process. Great, let's do it. So now we can actually go through the cutover process. We click on Start Cutover. And by the way, if you want to sync the storage with Azure File Sync, we've got the links to help you do that in there, right there as well, if you'd like to do that. And now you can begin the Start Cutover process. So again, I have the old name, FS01. And now, this has been time compressed, and now we are doing the cutover to the new server. So the old one has become the SMS 2019-02. The new one has now taken on the name of the old server, FS01, and here comes the second one as well. So what you just saw is we just migrated two servers, one running server 2008, one running server 2012, both of them to 2019. All of this through the storage migration service. And we literally walk you through the entire process. And when you're done with this, you're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, should I leave this on my file server on-prem? You can, absolutely. What if I want to move this to Azure? You could actually migrate these right to Azure if you wanted. Most people are like, well, you know, these have been running on-prem for so long, maybe I'll just keep them on-prem. Great, you know, here's what you really should do. If you want to do that, keep them on-prem, great. Install the Azure File Sync service, and start syncing this up to Azure to give your file servers basically virtually unlimited bottomless storage. And in fact, Azure File Sync, you know, it's a perfect progression for all of this. So you take your old servers, you migrate them, you modernize them into a new server. Now you've got this new flash-filled server with lots of cores, lots of memory, and it's a hot cache for on-premises. And you basically say, look, keep 20% of this free at all times. So with Azure File Sync, it automatically tiers it up into the cloud, and so you always have this hot cache on premises. And if a file is needed, it's automatically downloaded. All taken care of. And in addition, of course, you probably heard the big news yesterday. When it comes to Azure File Sync, we released this last year. People are loving it. There was one big request. The request was for more storage. So yesterday, we announced support for 100 terabytes per file share. Per file share. I had two guys come up to me afterwards. One of them was like, I work in a law firm. I've got 50 terabytes. You just made my day. He's like, we were limited by Azure's File Sync before. 100 terabytes, we're done deal. We are doing this as soon as I get back to the office. So 100 terabyte support in here for Azure File Sync. All right, so since I'm spending a ton of time talking about storage, I'm going to quickly dive in a little bit into Windows Server storage. So again, there's so much content in here, I cannot get it covered completely in 75 minutes. There's a number of things I want to highlight. Number one, all the admin center integration. You're seeing it everywhere. Storage replica, storage migration, Azure backup, all of that. Deduplication with REFS. Huge savings. Windows-based deduplication in the box, but now it works with REFS. Up until now, it's been limited to NTFS. Now you can use it for REFS, and you can drive down your costs and improve the efficiency of your storage. A whole bunch of capabilities. I talked about storage class memory, and for our enterprise customers and cloud service providers, cluster sets. You want to create clusters of clusters of clusters in a single unified namespace. Why, would you like a cluster to be 64 nodes, 100 nodes, 500 nodes? Oh boy, let me tell you, we got you all covered in a single unified namespace, cluster sets. And then finally, we've been doing a whole bunch of things, not only around performance, but around scale. So with that, I'm going to invite Cosmos back on stage because Cosmos, I got something else for you to demo. Come on out back, Cosmos.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jeff.
Come on, and welcome Cosmos, everyone.
Hello again. We spend a lot of time talking about storage spaces direct in the context of hyper-converged infrastructure. But you, our customers, tell us you do other things with it too. One that comes up a lot is to use storage spaces direct in Windows Server as a target for backup or archival storage. And for those kinds of use cases, one of the top requested features has been simply to support larger capacity. I think it's safe to say that even outside of IT, everyone today is pretty familiar with the concept of a gigabyte. Right? Everyone has a good intuitive grasp of how big that is. Not that it's a billion bytes, but okay, because of my phone, it's a couple hundred photos or a couple hundred songs. Fair enough. And in IT, I would even venture to say most of us are pretty comfortable with how big a terabyte is. For example, we all get a terabyte, or most of us get a terabyte of OneDrive storage. Personally, I struggle to fill that up. I just don't have enough stuff. And in fact, I can tell you the data tells us that most people don't have enough stuff. But for archival and backup on Storage Spaces Direct, customers have asked us for petabyte scale, 1,000 or thousands of terabytes, millions of gigabytes. So I'm very excited to say that in Windows Server 2019, Storage Spaces Direct supports up to 4 petabytes of raw storage per cluster. And as Jeff said, of course, you can stitch multiple clusters into a cluster set. To put 4 petabytes in perspective, that's enough to store all of Wikipedia in every language with the complete edit history, uncompressed, 50 times. Now, you may say, OK, very nice, Microsoft. You picked a big number. Is it even real? Does 4 petabytes, like, what is that? So the demo that I'd like to show today is the result of a collaboration between Microsoft and Quanta Cloud Technologies, QCT. And with what I can only describe as very generous support of Seagate and Samsung, we set out to build the largest Storage Spaces Direct cluster by capacity ever outside of a public cloud. Let's take a look. In Windows Admin Center, we can start and see that we have 8 servers in this environment. We can switch to the Inventory tab and take a look at them. There they are, servers 1 through 8. And they're from, as I said, our friends at QCT. Now, take note of the Quantaplex T21P4U. That's an important SKU. It's new. Because if we switch over to the drives pane, what you'll see is surprising is, despite only having 8 servers, this cluster has over 500 drives in it. Using Windows Admin Center, we can group them by server, and it's kind of neat. We can actually collapse each of the groups and see very clearly that every server in this cluster has 72 drives in it. Now, we can expand one of those groups, like the group for server 1, and take a look and see, OK, so there's, 8 cache drives, each of them 2 terabytes from our friends at Samsung. These are SSDs. And then we have this enormous long list of hard disks that just goes and goes and goes. And this is, again, this is only server 1, right? We've collapsed all the others. And each of these is an 8 terabyte HDD from our friends at Seagate. What that means is this cluster gives us over 3.5 petabytes of raw storage capacity with just these 8 nodes. So that, we believe, is the largest Storage Spaces Direct cluster ever by storage capacity. So I want to thank our friends at QCT, Samsung, and Seagate for loaning us all of that gear. Now, what's really cool is this isn't just a proof of concept. QCT's actually gone and productized this, so you can order one today. They've been working with Veeam and Accutech to benchmark the system, simulating a realistic backup workload, so they know that it can do a sustained 25 gigabytes per second of data ingest. So that's all writes. And if you multiply that out, that's about 100 terabytes an hour that you can write into this thing. And it's been fully validated and listed under the Windows Server software-defined program, which means you can find it and over 50 other hardware platforms that are ready to go for Storage Spaces Direct at microsoft.com/WSSD for Windows Server software-defined. OK, thank you very much. Back to you, Jeff.
Awesome, Cosmos. Thank you. Industry-leading performance, industry-leading scale. Oh my gosh, we are having a blast. So that's just a huge number. But I also want to point out, when it comes to storage, we didn't just stop there. Across the board, Windows Server 2019 includes some massive increases in scale across the board. Maximum raw capacity per server, for example, is up 4x, up to 400 terabytes per server. So again, we are pushing the limits because, honestly, this is what our enterprise customers require, this type of support. Maximum number of volumes and maximum size per volume have also doubled as well. So we've been very, very busy. I have to say, again, I've spent a lot of time on storage and hybrid and hyper-converged, and I feel bad because, again, in terms of time, I've got to keep it moving. I want to say, in terms of SDN, oh my gosh, the networking team has been busy. There's been a tremendous amount of work going on in SDN. We have virtual network peering. So for example, virtual NICs, traffic between virtual NICs on the underlying fabric, actually you get high-speed connectivity between virtual networks. No gateway is actually required there. So we're actually doing a whole bunch of things to accelerate virtual to virtual networking. We have encrypted subnets, people asking about this for security capabilities, and so much more. The point I want to make here is there's a whole session. Greg Cousins is going to go really, really deep on all the features in Server 2019. But the one that I really had to make sure that you guys heard about was, I've heard people tell me, Jeff, I like SDN. I like the concept of SDN. And I hear this word microsegmentation talked about a whole bunch. And everybody talks about how microsegmentation is a really, really big, cool thing and all that. But at the end of the day, networking can be abstract. Okay, a disk, I can hold a disk. I can hold a DIMM. I can hold, I guess, a network adapter, but I can't really see, what's coming in and out of it. And so it can be a little abstract, and it can be difficult to manage. And what I'd really like to be able to do is I'd really like to be able to manage SDN a whole bunch easier in Windows Server. And you know what? We heard you loud and clear, which is why we're introducing Windows Admin Center management for software-defined networking, of course. Would you expect anything else? So for example, if you want to add network controller to your hyper-converged cluster, you simply input the name for your network controller and add it. Then you have the ability to add virtual networks. SDN networks are literally a click away. I have an inventory here with a number of virtual networks. I can simply go in here and add a virtual network. I can define the address prefixes. I can add subnets, and I can all of a sudden, very quickly and easily, SDN now is available for mere mortals. Okay, it's literally just a few clicks away. But the next logical question becomes, okay, Jeff, this is cool. I like this. But if I do enable this, then how am I going to monitor this? Okay, so you give me the ability to add all this stuff and create it, and I get it, and I like it, and I'll probably start using it in a test environment. But how do I monitor it? How do I know, for example, the health of my software-defined networking infrastructure, like my multiplexers, my load balancers, my gateways, all of these things? You know what? That's a great question. How do we monitor SDN? I wonder what we could do about that. What if we just introduced Windows Admin Center integration for SDN monitoring as well? Yeah. We've been totally thinking about this. And rather than show you, I'm going to tell you, go see Greg's session, Modernize Your Windows Software-Defined SDN Windows Server 2019. That is BRK2241. That's a tease. I'm not even showing you what it looks like. You can monitor your load balancers, your networks, your multiplexers, your gateways, network controller, all of that through Admin Center. So check out Greg's session. All right. We've talked about hybrid. We've talked about hyper-converged. It's time to switch on over to security. So one of the things that we've been doing, of course, as we continue to ratchet up our investments in Server 2016, we made a lot of great investments. Shielded VMs, people keep coming to me over and over going, this is amazing. How did we ever deploy a domain controller without shielded VMs? We're crazy that we did that. And in fact, we've seen it now. It is literally the best practice. If you're deploying a domain controller, it absolutely should be in a shielded VM, period, bar none, end of story. Otherwise, the bad guys get their hands on it, and they can be whoever they want in your organization. They can literally own you. And it's not because they're hacking, it's because they can impersonate anyone they want because they have the keys to your kingdom. Shielded VMs is just one example. We continue to make additional investments. But rather than me talk about it, I'd like to invite Mr. Dean Wells on stage to talk about the work that we're doing with password protection and Windows Server Active Directory.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Dean.
Hey, everybody. Hello, Ned. Where are you? The pictures are going round. The thread's already gone. He's got like 12 pictures taken already, so I'm giving him a stage. Ned, take away. All right. Hi, everybody. What I want to talk to you about is it's about a product that's very near and dear to my heart, something called Active Directory. Who uses Active Directory? Quick show of hands. I expect a Mexican wave here. Excellent. Okay, well, the entire industry is somewhat moving toward a method where when you log on, you don't tend to use a password as the proof. We use a variety of different things, like Azure multi-factor authentication. We even go as far as attesting to the health of devices. But the reality is, we still have a slew of legacy applications out there that require you to log on with bog-standard credentials. You might be running legacy operating systems, even in the server space, that still require regular credentials to log on. So it's been somewhat the bane of administrators' lives for a long, long time now to figure out how to ensure that if we are forced to continue using passwords, how do we make those passwords as secure as they can possibly be? Well, Azure Active Directory solved this problem some time back. What we've done now is we've taken what they did in Azure Active Directory and we've projected that same capability down into Windows Server Active Directory. And for those of you that are a little bit technical geeky with AD, we've done it by building on top of the standard method that's been there since Windows 2003 called password filters. But what this is doing is taking all of the capabilities in Azure AD, the same tenant that is syncing from your on-premises AD, and we're taking all of the banned passwords, the weak passwords, and then doing some very clever password matching on-premises so that you get exactly the same password checking experience on-prem as you do in the cloud. Now, this may seem like a very simple thing, and arguably it actually is. I know the developer that wrote it, took him a little while, but it's incredibly valuable because you can't get rid of those legacy apps. This enforces the use of strong passwords. Now, if you notice here as well, the latest NIST guidance, which is interesting, advises against grammar-based complexity. That was news to me when I read that. I would suggest you go and take a look at that on the NIST website. It's an interesting one. Take a look at that third cell there. People use iterative passwords, but the variation between the previous and the successive password is not sufficient. But we don't have technology on-prem that can catch that. Azure AD's banned password capabilities can catch that. And as I said earlier, it is still basically too hard, in many cases impossible, for companies to migrate off of using passwords, period. So we put that technology from Azure AD down into on-premises Windows Server. And what I want to do is I want to show you how it works, but I also want to show you how to install it. And I'm going to mention now, very clear and very upfront, this is not built into Server 2019 because the Azure AD team saw the correct path and they adopted it. This is a free download, and you can then add it to Windows domain controllers going as far back today as 2012 R2. And as far as I know, Jay, the developer, is looking to enable it on Windows Server 2012 domain controllers as well. They all support the mechanism, and it will extend that very, very clever algorithm into your on-premises domain controllers so that the password enforcement in the cloud is identical to the password enforcement on-prem. Pretty cool. All right, let me go ahead and show you exactly what this looks like then. So to enable the password protection on-prem, we start by configuring it in the Azure Active Directory Management Portal. So we're going to do that now. We'll zoom down into AAD, and I'll explode that view a little bit so you can see exactly what's going on. And here we go, time to zoom. So obviously, the first thing we're going to do is say, enable it, and then you'll notice down the bottom it's got two modes. If you're a little nervous, you can put it in audit mode and just see what would happen. Most people will just switch it straight into enforce mode. And obviously, we're going to create a custom banned password list to prevent people entering silly passwords. For example, in our case, we might well put Microsoft because people will use derivatives of Microsoft. So what we're now doing is we're going to download the necessary components. Keep watching that in the background while I give you an idea of how this works. If this is a hybrid security solution, which it is, that implies that it's got to connect to the cloud. How many of you are comfortable allowing your domain controllers to connect directly to the internet? One would hope not too many of you. So they built this cleverly. The domain controller itself doesn't directly talk to the internet. It talks to a proxy component that runs on a regular domain member server that does have line of sight directly to Azure Active Directory. It then pulls down on a regular basis all of the custom banned password list and potentially anything that the artificial intelligence in the cloud figured out was a bad idea. It brings that in and it passes it over upon request to each of the domain controllers, which enforces that new set. So the point that we're at right now is we're grabbing credentials, we're registering the Azure AD password protection proxy with the directory service. This tells the domain controller where the proxy is. We now jump over to the domain controller, at which point we're just going ahead and we're installing the actual agent that runs on the domain controller, installs the passfilt DLL, for those of you that know what that is, and once that's done, we're going to need to reboot the domain controller to bring that into effect, at which point we've now got new password enforcement based upon artificial intelligence from Azure AD in the cloud and some very clever algorithms that I'll mention in a second. So first, the user tries a globally banned password, something silly, password 1. That's actually the one I use on lab systems. Then the user tries the company name. At this point, we should ban them again because using the password of the company name really isn't secure. It's an obvious thing for an attacker to go to. We block it again. That one's kind of obvious. What about now, though? Well, we didn't use an exact match on this one. We did use something that was derived, though. Look at it. We used something like Contosa, where we replaced the T with an underscore or a different character, and it still blocked it. How is it doing that? Well, it's using substring matching. and it's using various other types of string matching to assess the complexity of the password, how similar it is to previous iterations of the password, and whether or not we deem that to be sufficiently safe. So the IT admin then can go back and see exactly how many password changes were blocked. You can see exactly who they were blocked for, and guess what? You can even see the password that the guy entered and was, I'm lying, you can't really see that. That would be crap, wouldn't it, if we did that? No, that is not exposed whatsoever. Let's just be completely clear there. All right, so password protection then. It leverages existing AAD capabilities. It's referred to internally sort of as banned password, but that's not the proper name for it, but that's what you're going to see. That's the effect that you'll get on-prem. Customers can configure weak password lists of your own choosing. Domain controllers do not require line of sight. Fantastic, that would be nuts. Substring matches, okay, that's easy. We just look for a medial match in any token in the password. But then take a look at this one. We've got Levenstein distances. This is basically, if I take password n for now, and I look at password n+1, what I'm trying to change it to, I see how many character changes equated from this one to this one. If it is too close to this one, without additional surrounding complexity, we will consider that to be insufficient as well and block that too. So this is not just a simple increase in the password complexity filter. This actually has an awful lot of artificial intelligence backing it and using clever matching algorithms to ensure that you're not just using iterative passwords as you go forward, ultimately weakening the authentication that's happening on-prem. All right, that's it from me. I hope you found that to be a useful feature. Thank you.
Great job, Dean.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, sir. Oh man, loving this. All right, we are, oh my gosh, I got less than 9 minutes. We're in the home stretch, application innovation. So there's a lot of sessions here talking around containers and Kubernetes and what's happening there. We've also been talking quite a bit about new applications, our SQL Server 2019, Exchange Server 2019. But I wanted to make sure you're aware of things that we're doing in the OS around application innovation as well. And there's a feature that's been out for a while, but I think it's kind of flown under the radar. And this is probably the only session you're going to hear something about it. And this is called Windows Server 2019 Features on Demand. Question, how many of you have heard about Features on Demand? Anybody? Oh, see, that's what I thought. Very few hands raised. Okay. So let me explain what Features on Demand is all about. So one of the big things I've heard from people now all the time is, Jeff, Admin Center is awesome, and because it's so awesome, and because I can do everything from a browser, and because I'm not logging into the machine anymore, we're using Server Core. We're seeing it. Server Core numbers have jumped in a very big way, because all of a sudden now, from my browser remotely, I can install roles, I can add features, I can configure the server, I can view event logs, I can do all of these things remotely, and guess what? It's now completely and totally, whoa, this just happens, it just works. But there are challenges still, and trust me, we will continue nonstop and aggressively to continue to add more features in Admin Center to make it even easier. But at the same time, the question I always get is, well, Jeff, what about local tools? What if for whatever reason I have to go to the box? I have to go to the machine, or I have to go to a VM, okay, and I have to get to it, and I need local tools on there. What can we do about that? Also, installers. People tell me, you know what, Jeff, I have an application that I would like to try in Server Core, but the installer just simply straight up blocks. It says, oh, sorry, I'm looking for some random DLL or some random file. I'm looking to see, hey, is there a browser thing, or is there some DLL I'm looking for? It's just simply not there. And the installer says, I don't know what this is, never mind. And so you can't even install it to try it. And so we figure out, well, is there a way that we could bridge this further? So we've got Server Core, and we've got full. What if we came up with something kind of in the middle? Well, that's where Features on Demand comes in. What is it? It's Server Core, and there's an additional ISO, okay? It's a virtual DVD, CD, whatever you want to call it. It's about 340 megabytes, okay? And basically, when you download the Windows Server, if you're on the VL portal, or if you're up in Azure, or if you're in the eEval Center, you'll see that there's the Windows Server disk. And right next to it, there'll be this thing that says Windows Server FOD, or Windows Server Features on Demand, and you can download as well. Well, what's it for? The number one, it's to support those apps that are already in market, for example, where the installer may literally be blocking. Okay, you try to install on Server Core, doesn't work. Okay, install the Features on Demand, see if it works now. Number two, support for local debugging and tools. Okay, so you may be thinking, oh boy, Jeff, this sounds like it's probably really, really hard to install. No, it's actually really easy. So step one, download the ISO. Like I said, it's a virtual CD, DVD. okay? By the way, this only works on server core. It doesn't work on full because you're running full. Okay, it doesn't make any sense there. So insert the ISO into your VM, and then literally enter the following command. And it's literally copy and paste. So for example, if your D drive in your virtual machine is D, then there is literally the command. All you do was you change /source drive letter of mounted to source D, and that's it. After the progress bar completes, restart it, and you're done. You're running with the features on demand. So let me show you what it looks like. So here I am in Windows Admin Center. And in fact, to show you, I ran mmc.exe, MMC from 20 years ago. Guess what? Doesn't work, because the MMC is not in server core. I said, OK, how about event viewer? So I tried event viewer.msc. Guess what? Doesn't work. Not in core. OK, well, what about, I need to move files around. What about File Explorer? Oh, can't do that either. Now again, I can do all of this in Admin Center, and I would still prefer you to do that. That's the best way to do it. But again, if there's some reason you need to be there, you need local debugging, or you need something specifically on this machine, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we could fix that? So there's literally the command I showed you. I just pasted it right in here. And by the way, because I'm using Admin Center, and Admin Center has VM Connect, I can actually paste right into server core from my host. That's pretty cool. So we've got shared clipboard. So I pasted this literally right into core, and I clicked return. And what happened? Yep, 79% done, 83% done, 94% done, and it's done. And now it says, do you want to restart the computer? The answer is yes. OK. After I restart, hey, guess what? Just a little interesting thing. The command line changed blue on the initial login. Once you actually log in, it'll go back to gray, just to let you know. Now, I fired up MMC. Look what happened. Oh, there's MMC. OK, what about Event Viewer? Oh, there's Event Viewer right there. OK, well, what about File Explorer? Whoa, wait a minute. There's File Explorer. Yeah, I can copy files. I can create directories. I can do all that. Now, again, I would still prefer you were doing this from Admin Center and not logging in the box, because one of the things that Admin Center does is it enforces good server hygiene, which is you should not be logged in the box. This is where bad things happen, is when humans get involved doing things directly here. But again, for these scenarios, it's all right here. And so now, all of a sudden, server core features on demand gives me the ability to help bridge the gap with some of those apps that, you know what? If I install this and I run that installer, does it work? Very good chance those older apps that couldn't run on server core just work now. So what are the apps? What are some of the things included with features on demand? So first of all, keep in mind that Exchange Server 2019, FOD is not needed. Exchange Server 2019 supports server core out of the box. Huge props to my friends over in the Exchange team. Jeff, Brent, and a whole bunch of folks over there for getting this done. I'm really excited about this. The SQL database engine does not require FOD. SQL just works on server core, has for quite a while. So those, you just keep running server core. SQL Server Management Studio, TFS, more to come. So what about OS components? What are the things that we include in FOD? Well, I showed you MMC, Event Viewer, Perfmon, Resource Monitor, Device Manager. One thing I always get, well, Jeff, I'd like to do this, but how do I configure and update device drivers? Well, you can actually do it through Admin Center, but if you really want to go to the box, for example, the NIC died, it physically died, and you can't get to the machine, guess what? You can now bring up Event Viewer on the machine locally and take advantage and fix that. So Device Manager, Explorer, ClueMan, and yes, I even have it. I'm begging you don't do it. But Internet Explorer is there. Why is Internet Explorer there, Jeff? You just told me not to put a browser. So number one, Internet Explorer is not included in FOD. It actually has its own special deployment. Just like FOD, IE is the same way. We'll have a special ISO just for IE because I did not want to include that in FOD. Okay? IE is not in FOD. FOD gives you all those other things. If you decide you really, really need IE because you have something that needs a link to go somewhere and it has an IE dependency, great. There's another ISO to put in IE specifically. But I was not going to lump that in with FOD. So it's there if you need it. So the instructions are there. So lastly, the deployment and best practices. Number one, start with server core. Nothing has changed. This is the same message we've been telling you for some time now. Start with server core. Why? Because number one, it promotes great server hygiene. Don't be logging on the machine. Why? Because you know what? Everybody says, oh, no, I'm the domain admin, but I never log into a server and actually browse the web until they do. And that's when bad things happen. Everybody always says, of course I never log into the web on a server. I never do that. I never check my mail. Yes, you do. That's how the bad guys get in. That's how all those Trojan horses get on domain controllers, because someone's checking their mail on a DC, and I want to scream at night. So please don't do that. Server core is still your best practice. If it doesn't work, then great. Install the features on demand, go through that process, and when you're done, guess what? You can remove them. Try it out. Remove the FOD, because very often what happens is setup for these old apps actually looks for a file, doesn't really need it. It's actually looking just to see because it thinks it's full. But once it gets past it, guess what? It just works. And then finally, if you have to, we still have the backstop that is server with the full desktop. So lastly, looking forward. Woohoo! Perfect. I wanted to be super crystal clear about this. What's the next thing for server? Well, if you're not a part of the Insiders program, you should be right now. Every 2 weeks, we introduce new releases of Admin Center and of Windows Server. So all this cool stuff you're seeing in Admin Center, we are constantly pumping out releases in Admin Center, because we're taking your feedback through user voice and delivering you new features and capabilities. Also gives you the ability to see the new features in server and give us your feedback through user voice. Second, we have the semi-annual channel. So twice a year, in 6 months, you'll see the next release. You'll see it. H1, CY 2019, that's for application innovation, for our folks building containers and new applications. Guess what? We're going to continue to give you that innovation, and those guys continue to be fast. And then for our traditional LTSC, the long-term servicing channel, which is what Server 2019 is, guess what? I'll see you in another 2 to 3 years, where I'll have another nice big launch, and I'll probably have, again, 3 days of content I'm trying to squeeze into 75 minutes. So with that, I want to invite everyone to the Windows Server launch party. We have limited invites, so please come on down to the booth to actually go through, to actually talk to people to actually get the tickets, because it's literally invite only. We will run out quickly. And I also want to give just a huge thank you to everyone. Again, this was a deep dive. I can only go so deep in 75 minutes. We have a whole bunch of fantastic content, whether it's Storage Spaces Direct, whether it's System Insights, whether it's remote desktop services, whether it's file servers, whether it's storage migration service. Please check it out. And lastly, but not least, please download Admin Center. And while you're downloading Admin Center, make sure that you go scan and provide a review for my session. If you love this session, my name is Jeff Woolsey. If you did not like my session, my name is Jeffrey Snover. That's S-N-O-V-E-R. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the show.